Otherwise, it seems like they were a normal family and they were happy and everything was cool until this happens.
Wow. I don't know why I haven't heard about this. This is ridiculous.
So, have you heard the story of the astrology influencer who allegedly went crazy because of the solar eclipse and ended the life of her girlfriend and tried to take the lives of her 2 kids? Like, threw them out on the street of a moving car. It's a crazy story. You heard about this?
No, I have not.
All right, so an astrology influencer, allegedly driven by fears about the solar eclipse, went on a horror spree, stabbing her partner to death and pushing her children from a moving car before taking her own life by ramming her vehicle into a tree. Danielle Johnson, 34, went on a violent rampage in Los Angeles on April 8th, the same day that a rare phenomenon of a total solar eclipse plunged parts of the U.S. into darkness. In the days leading up to the attack, and I know you saw this a lot, like it was all over TikTok, Twitter, everybody was talking about, oh, something crazy is gonna happen. I saw that for weeks ahead, these conspiracy theories. Well, she was on Twitter tweeting out these types of conspiracy theories, and her whole Twitter had a whole bunch of like conspiratorial, like her Twitter a little wild. But in the days leading up to the attack, she took to social media to voice her beliefs that the solar eclipse would be the epitome of spiritual warfare. Posting under the name Ayoka, the astrology influencer had over 100,000 followers and often reposted conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic field rhetoric on her page. Prior to Monday's rampage, she had posted messages on X telling people to wake up, the apocalypse is here, and warning her followers that they needed to pick a side. In the early hours of Monday morning, hours before the eclipse, police said she went on her spree. The Los Angeles Police Department said in a statement that around 3:40 a.m. on Monday morning, Johnson got into a verbal fight with her live-in partner, Jalen Chaney, who is also 29, at their home in the 6200 block of Variel Avenue. The fight escalated when Johnson became violent and stabbed Chaney to death. Johnson then allegedly took her 2 young kids, aged 9 and 8 months old, and fled the scene in a dark-colored Porsche SUV. The Porsche was seen, and this is where it gets bad, the Porsche was seen driving down the 405 freeway near Howard Hughes Parkway. At around 4:30 a.m., the 2 children were then thrown out of the vehicle while it was moving. The 9-year-old survived but sustained moderate injuries from the fall. But according to reports, the 8-month-old was hit by oncoming traffic in the middle of the road and died on the scene. As the 9-year-old fell into the middle of the freeway, she injured herself and dropped an infant and had to run out of the way. And then in the race to get out of the freeway and not get hit by traffic, the 9-year-old managed to get to the shoulder successfully, but the infant was struck by traffic, and so the infant succumbed to her injuries in the middle of the freeway there. Johnson then carried on driving, accelerating the vehicle to an excess of 100 miles per hour before crashing into a tree in the city of Redondo Beach at around 5 a.m. Johnson died from her injury. The 9-year-old is the sole survivor of the mother's horrific spree, and a few hours later, around 7:35 a.m., Chaney's body was found at the couple's home when the neighbors noticed that the front door was open. Police said that the neighbor went to check on the family and found the young lady unalived in her apartment. So this story blew up. It was really big, crazy story. Unfortunately, it's just tragic. It seems like she may have, and this is the thing. So this article, when there's a lot of articles like this, cite, because the problem is that no one knows exactly what happened. So there's no real reason for why this exploded. The only kind of clue that people have to go off of is that she was talking about the apocalypse ending, the apocalypse happening, a day before this all occurred, and maybe that being some kind of break that had led up to this. Because obviously, for you to do all of this, you had to be going through something psychologically. This isn't something even if you and your significant other got into it, it doesn't mean you're going to take it out on the kids. That's one thing. You know what I'm saying? So for you to do all of that and then take your own life is one thing. So that leads a lot of people to believe that there was some type of psychological issue going on here. Definitely. And the only thing that really have to go off of is her social media, because otherwise it seems like they were a normal family and they were happy and everything was cool until this happens.
Wow. I don't know why I haven't heard about this. This is ridiculous.
According to the neighbor, when they arrived, the door was open and there was blood on the floor leading into the apartment, and then a trail of it in the hallway leading up to the elevator. And they also had apparently there was also blood on the wall. So it seemed like it was a very gruesome crime scene, and it seemed like something that wasn't planned out. It happened in the moment. Things exploded, and then this is the car folded up because she, got into a wreck going over 100 miles an hour. And like I said, even law enforcement is saying like there's no real tangible evidence about what happened. It's just this tragic story, and now there's only one sole survivor, and God knows how that kid is gonna grow up in the type of trauma that they have to, go through. It's gonna be ridiculous. And then imagine not only you being thrown out of the car, but then having to hold hold on to your sibling as you do, and then you know what I'm saying, like
you end up dropping, she's gonna basically, or he or she is going to live with that for the rest of their life. They're gonna feel guilty that.
Hopefully not, but I could definitely see how that can happen.
Just because of the fact that, to grow up and feel like, okay, well, you had control over something, like you had your sibling in your arms and then you dropped them and then felt like you had to run to safety. That could make them feel like, they always had to pick themselves, over someone else. And that's hard. I can't imagine what they would go through.
And I feel like these situations are always the hardest because when there is no real clear as to why the friends and the family and the loved ones of the people involved don't get that sense of knowing exactly the closure and knowing exactly what happened. They just have to go off of, innuendo and hoping that they have an idea of what happened. But then this is not a simple, we got into it and went too far, took your life or whatever. That happens every day and it's still tragic. But when you got kids involved, the type of trauma involved, taking your own life, all of these things point to some type of mental illness, and to never get that closure, know exactly what happened and why it escalated like this, and for it to seemingly come out of nowhere, I feel like it's like one of the worst things that can happen.
Yeah, definitely. I would hope that because it's early, that maybe we find out a little bit more about this.
As they investigate.
Yeah. There's nothing that could really just make this better, but just to have some kind of, like you said, closure for the family would be nice. But I mean, the police are definitely going to always sweep stuff like this. When I say sweep this under the rug, sweep the cause under the rug if it's not logical.
Because they can only go off of facts.
Right. So they're not going to use the eclipse. They're not going to use, any of the conspiracy theories unless, it's in a concrete way to make this make sense for, the judge. So for that, like you said, there's always going to be the wonder of what happened. And there'll be no real investigation unless we find something factual.
I agree. So look, we'll keep you guys updated as we find out more information. Hopefully, the law enforcement will get to the bottom of this and be able to bring the people who are loved ones of these individuals some closure, because it is a very tragic situation. And if we do get that information, we will definitely update the story and let you know.